Let's start with the most dangerous myth in leadership. The myth that your results are determined by your circumstances. The myth that if the economy crashes, you must crash. The myth that if your team is stressed, you must be stressed. That is the mentality of a victim, not a victor. And I am telling you right now, if you buy into that lie, you have already lost the game before the opening bell even rings. What separates the giants from the ghosts is one simple, non-negotiable habit: the ability to manage your state, not your strategy, not your funding, your state, your physiology, your focus, the way you breathe, the way you stand, the way you hold your shoulders, and the questions you ask yourself in the middle of a crisis. That is the battlefield where wars are won or lost. Most leaders are thermometers. They walk into a room, they feel the temperature, and they reflect it right back. If the room is hot with panic, they sweat. If the room is cold with fear, they freeze. They are passive reactors to the environment around them. And that is a recipe for absolute mediocrity. But the leader who dominates, the leader who builds an empire that lasts decades, that leader is a thermostat. A thermostat doesn't reflect the room. A thermostat sets the temperature of the room. When everyone else is losing their minds, that leader steps in with the physiology of power chest out, chin up, breathing deep, and says, "We are calm. We are capable. We will figure this out." That energy is contagious. It cascades through the organization like a wave. When the leader is certain, the team is certain. When the leader is grounded, the team is grounded. Now, think about how much more critical this habit is today than it was 35 years ago. Back then, you had time to pause. You had time to think. Today, the news cycle is relentless. Social media screaming at you from every angle. Distractions are attacking your nervous system every second of every day. If you do not have the discipline to manage your internal state, the external world will chew you up and spit you out. You will become a puppet jerked around by every email, every headline, every competitor's move. So I ask you, are you the thermostat or are you the thermometer? Because in this world, there is no room for the thermometer. The thermostat runs the show. The thermostat writes the history. Be the thermostat. Now, let's talk about the graveyard of good intentions. It is filled with people who had brilliant ideas, flawless business plans, and Ivy League education. They knew exactly what to do. They could analyze a spreadsheet like a surgeon. They could debate strategy until the sun went down, but they never pulled the trigger. They never crossed the starting line. And do you know what they're remembered for? Absolutely nothing. Because knowledge without execution is just a mental masturbation. It feels good, but it produces zero results. And in a world that moves at the speed of light, hesitation is not just a mistake. Hesitation is a death sentence. The second unstoppable habit that has stood the test of 35 years is the reflex of massive action. Not incremental action, not cautious action, not let's dip our toe in the water and see how it feels action. I am talking about all in, pedal to the metal, relentless forward momentum. The leaders who built the empires we still talk about today didn't wait for perfect conditions. They didn't wait for all the data to come in. They launched, they fired, they adjusted mid-flight. They understood a fundamental law of the universe: motion creates emotion. Action cures fear. You cannot think your way out of a problem. You have to act your way out of it. 35 years ago, the speed of business was a leisurely jog. You had quarters to make decisions. You had months to pivot. Today, the window of opportunity opens and slams shut in the blink of an eye. Artificial intelligence is rewriting the rules every morning. Consumer preferences shift overnight. If you are still analyzing while your competitor is acting, you are not in second place. You are in last place, waving goodbye to the market share you could have owned. The habit of massive action means you decide quickly and you change slowly. It means you fire the bullet first, cheap, fast, testing the waters, and then you fire the cannonball. But you fire something, anything, because a mediocre plan executed with ferocity will always beat a brilliant plan that sits on a shelf collecting dust. So I need you to ask yourself right now, what are you waiting for? Permission, certainty, the perfect moment? That moment does not exist. The only moment is now. Move. Let me paint you a picture. You are standing on a ship in the middle of a violent storm. The waves are crashing over the deck. The wind is howling so loud you cannot hear your own voice. The crew is looking at you eyes wide with terror, waiting for someone to tell them what to do. In that moment, they don't need a navigator. They don't need a map. They need certainty. They need to look at you and see something rock solid, something unshakable, something that tells them, we are not going down today. That is the third habit. That is the anchor of unshakable belief. And 35 years later, in a world that has never been more volatile, more unpredictable, or more chaotic, this habit is not optional. It is oxygen. Most people live their entire lives in the prison of fear. They are terrified of failure. They are terrified of judgment. They are terrified of looking foolish. And because of that fear, they play small. They make safe choices. They hedge their bets. They keep one foot on the dock and one foot on the boat, and they wonder why they never go anywhere. But the leader who practices the habit of certainty operates differently. Certainty is not arrogance. It is not stubbornness. It is not pretending you have all the answers when you clearly do not. Certainty is a deep, unshakable conviction that no matter what happens, you will figure it out. It is the belief that you have the resourcefulness to handle any curveball the universe throws at you. And that belief, my friend, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. 35 years ago, the world moved slower. You had time to second guess. You had time to deliberate. Today, the ground is shifting beneath our feet every single second. Markets crash overnight. Technologies become obsolete before they even launch. Global events turn your entire industry upside down in a heartbeat. If you do not anchor yourself in certainty, you will be tossed around like a leaf in a hurricane. But here is the beautiful truth. Certainty is contagious. When you walk into a room with absolute conviction, people feel it. They relax. They trust you. They follow you. They invest in you. You become a lighthouse in the fog of confusion. So I ask you, what are you afraid of? And more importantly, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? That is the question that changes everything. Anchor yourself in that answer. Let me drop a truth bomb on you. That might sting a little. Where you are right now in this very moment is the direct result of the habits you have practiced for the last 5, 10, or 20 years. Your income, your influence, your impact, none of it is an accident. It is a mathematical equation of your daily rituals. And if you are not where you want to be, there is only one culprit. You stopped growing. You got comfortable. You settled for the version of yourself that existed yesterday. And in a world that evolves at warp speed, standing still is not stagnation. Standing still is a slow, agonizing death. That brings us to the fourth habit, the engine that has powered every great leader for the last 35 years, relentless, obsessive, non-negotiable growth. I am talking about CANN constant and never-ending improvement. This is not a buzzword. This is a survival mechanism. The greats understood that they were either getting better or getting worse. There was no neutral zone. They read obsessively. They sought out mentors who were tougher than them. They listened to audios while others slept. They turned their commutes into university. They treated their minds like the most valuable asset they owned because, newsflash, it is. Your brain is the only thing that generates your income. If you are not investing in it daily, you are essentially showing up to the battlefield with a butter knife while your competitors are armed with laser-guided missiles. Now think about how much more urgent this habit is today than it was 35 years ago. Back then, if you learned a skill, it might serve you for a decade. Today, the half-life of a skill is shrinking by the minute. Artificial intelligence is replacing what used to take years of training. Algorithms are shifting faster than anyone can track. The leader who rests on yesterday's laurels is the leader who becomes irrelevant by next Tuesday. But the leader who wakes up hungry every single morning, who devours new information, who asks brutal questions of themselves, who seeks feedback even when it hurts, that leader is bulletproof. You cannot fire someone who is indispensable, and you become indispensable by growing faster than the problems around you. So I need you to look in the mirror and ask yourself, are you the same person you were a year ago? If the answer is yes, you are already falling behind. Get hungry, stay hungry, grow or die. Let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. When you speak, do people lean in or do they lean back? When you walk into a room, does the energy rise or does it flatten? When you send that email, does it inspire action or does it inspire confusion? Because here is the brutal truth that most leaders refuse to confront. You are not communicating. You are just making noise. And noise does not build empires. Noise does not rally troops. Noise does not close deals or change lives. The fifth habit, the one that has separated the iconic leaders from the forgettable managers for the last 35 years, is the art of empowered communication. It is the habit of building instant, unbreakable rapport with everyone you encounter. Now, let me break this down for you. Communication is not about the words you choose. Words are cheap. Words are just the vehicle. Communication is about the feeling behind the words. It is about your tone, your tempo, your physiology, and your ability to step into someone else's world and see it through their eyes. The leaders who dominate understand a fundamental law. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And they don't know how much you care until you communicate it in a way that resonates with their deepest values, their fears, their hopes, and their dream. That is rapport. That is the bridge between you and their soul. 35 years ago, communication was simpler. You had face-to-face meetings. You had handwritten letters. You had time to craft your message. Today, we communicate through screens, through emojis, through hurried Zoom calls, and endless Slack messages. We have lost the art of connection in the noise of digital convenience. And that is precisely why this habit is more powerful than ever. In a world that feels increasingly disconnected, the leader who can make another human being feel seen, heard, and valued is the leader who attracts loyalty like a magnet. Loyalty that no competitor can buy. Loyalty that no crisis can break. So I challenge you right now. Are you connecting or are you just transmitting? Are you building bridges or are you building walls? Because the quality of your communication is the quality of your leadership. And the quality of your leadership determines everything. Master this art and you master the world. Let me tell you something that might flip your entire worldview upside down. Everything I have shared with you so far. Managing your state, taking massive action, anchoring certainty, pursuing relentless growth, and mastering communication. All of it can make you successful. All of it can make you wealthy. All of it can make you powerful, but none of it will make you fulfilled. None of it will give you that deep, quiet, unshakable peace at 3 inches the morning when you are alone with your thoughts. And that brings us to the sixth and final habit, the one that ties everything together, the one that the giants of the last 35 years have quietly practiced while the world was busy chasing money and status, the habit of service. The ultimate success habit, the secret to living is giving. Now, do not misunderstand me. I am not talking about performative charity. I am not talking about writing a check to make yourself feel better or posting a photo on social media to look generous. I am talking about a lifestyle, a mindset, a daily ritual of asking yourself one question. How can I serve? Not how can I get? Not how can I take? Not how can I win at someone else's expense? But how can I add so much value to the lives of others that they cannot imagine their world without me? That is the habit that creates real, lasting, legendary success. Think about the leaders you admire most, the ones who left a mark on the world. Were they takers or were they givers? Were they self-serving or were they mission-driven? The answer is obvious. They served something bigger than themselves. They served their clients with such obsession that loyalty became automatic. They served their teams with such generosity that effort became effortless. They served their communities with such selflessness that their legacy outlived them. And here is the beautiful irony. When you focus on giving, you receive more than you could ever take. The universe has a strange, wonderful way of rewarding those who pour into others. 35 years ago, this was seen as noble but optional. Today, in a world starving for authenticity, for meaning, for connection, service is not optional. It is the only differentiator that matters. People are tired of being sold to. They are hungry to be served. So I ask you, who are you serving today? And if the answer is only yourself, you are building on sand. Shift your focus. Serve your way to the top. It is the only path that truly lasts.